Hello and welcome to or back to my channel. Today I was actually going to post the part 1 of a book review that I've been working on, but this came across my recommended and I decided to post this instead. So I'm just going to go ahead and make next week's intro out of date by saying that last time I uploaded I had 74 subscribers and now I have over 100. Thank you, I'm glad you're here and I hope that you liked today's video as much as the one that got you to subscribe in the first place. So as for today's video, I was going to say I don't know why YouTube thought I wanted to see this, but then I realized I have actually been viewing Fresh&Fit's content, so YouTube probably thinks I enjoy it. Yay. I have regrets. But anyway, so initially I thought she was going to be disagreeing with them, but as it turns out, she is a red pill wife. Not really surprised that she agrees with them. But it is disappointing and frustrating because it seems like I always have to say every day, women are not a monolith. We are not lesser shadow versions of men. We all have our own individual hopes, dreams, fears, desires. This content does not help. Anyway, let's just go ahead and get into the video. It's gonna be great.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rebecca and today I'm going to be reacting to women on the Fresh and Fit podcast that are talking about pregnancy and having children and their opinion about that.
And
Not everyone wants kids though.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Your mindset's going to change drastically in the next 5 years.
Everyone says that, but I don't think so.
So my first question is, at what age is a woman allowed to say she doesn't want kids without being told she'll change her mind?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is going to change.
So first, I'm wondering why that's unfortunate, and also, what gives Rebecca the right to speak with such authority about someone she's never even met?
I was one of these women. I was 21, 25, even 27, and I thought I never wanted kids.
Oh, okay. So this happened to her, and that's how she knows that other women will also experience this. Because all women, when they're 20, say they don't want kids, and then all women, when they hit, say, 30, they suddenly want kids. Oh, this makes total sense. Except not really. Hello, Eleanor.
That was a lie that I was telling myself and for the approval of other people.
So I don't know who needs to hear this, but never do anything for the approval of other people. It will only leave you miserable in the long run.
For some reason, I think that modern feminists...
So women throughout history have tried to control their fertility. It's not just a modern thing. It's not just a feminist thing. But by all means, please keep going. I'm very curious.
Believe that if we spew out the fact that we don't want children, other people will respect that.
So for the record, when someone tells you they don't want kids, telling them that they'll change their mind is not a sign of respect.
When in fact, we are lying to ourselves.
Okay, so 2 options. Option 1, women are lying to themselves because they want to fit in. Option 2, women are so weak-willed that though they want kids and they know they want kids, they are lying because they want to fit in. How low is your opinion of women, Rebecca?
I know so many women today that can't have kids, that waited too long, that had to freeze their eggs and wait a long time and probably will never have those children. And it's sad to see young women today getting spewed out this lie that...
Spewed out at? What is with her love of the word spew?
It's cool to not have kids, or it's trendy to not have kids,
or it's less expensive to not have kids. The reality of the world today is that kids are expensive, and in the United States at least, there is very little support for parents. There have been studies done about how having kids sets women back in their careers, and though I guess Rebecca would be happy to forego a career for a kid, not all women feel that way, because women are not a monolith. But thanks, Rebecca, for acting as though we are, even though you are also a woman, so... As I think I've mentioned before, women have always wanted to control their fertility. And especially now, I don't think it's about being trendy or cool to not have kids, especially once you hit 25, 30, you're no longer all that concerned about being trendy or cool. But there is a real concern about what environment the kids born now will inhabit. And I don't think that's something to be taken lightly, and a lot of people agree with me. And that is why there's a lot of people foregoing kids nowadays. Not simply because it's cool.
Or even think that, trust me, I was this woman. I lied to myself, I lied to my friends, I lied to my family, I lied to a lot of people, but most importantly, I lied to myself, and it hurt me the most. And now I'm 32 years old, and I pray to God every single day that my husband and I will have children.
It feels weird to say this to a 32-year-old woman, but just because it's true for you does not make it a universal truth.
And luckily, with all the testing that I've done, everything looks good. But there's so many women in their 20s, in their early 20s, that find out that they can't even have children. And they wait until they're 30 or in their mid 30s. And by that time, it's too late, or they don't have enough of the hormones to have children.
Did I understand her correctly? Young women today are finding out in their 20s they can't have kids, so they wait until their 30s to have kids, and then they find out it's too late. But if you find out in your 20s you can't have kids, then you still won't be able to have them, at least not without assistance, in your 30s. I must have misunderstood somewhere, but I'm not really sure how.
And their estrogen is low, their progesterone is low, and it's really sad to watch because at that point, it really is, an adoption option or a surrogate and stuff like that. And those things are very, very expensive.
I'm going to assume that she's watching these infertility struggles on Instagram. Otherwise, her friend group is having a very rough time. And yes, surrogacy and IVF and adoption is expensive, but it's not a guarantee that after 30 or even after 35, you'll need them.
So that is just my quick take on this so far. There's so much more.
But thinking and mind changing is two different things.
Yeah, guys.
The thought of pregnancy gives me actual nightmares.
Same.
Like wake up sweating type shit. I don't.
I'll
That's
have
like one of my
kids.
biggest fears, to be honest. I might adopt one day, but as in me personally, birthing a child, not gonna.
Why is she smirking and shaking her head? It's a completely valid thing to not want to physically give birth.
It's one of our superpowers.
I will get a surrogate. I will adopt IVF. I am not giving birth to a child.
IVF is literally injecting yourself with hormones to get pregnant. So I think there's a lot of misinformation and miseducation when it comes to women and just knowing what options are out there in the first place and also what they're even talking about. These women are 21, 22, 25. They do not care about having children, and that's okay. That is on them. They're going to learn the hard way.
I agree, there is a lot of misinformation out there about women and fertility, likely men trying to spread the fact that women's fertility takes a sharp nosedive after 25. And as for these particular women, if you don't want to have kids, you're not going to bother researching how to do so in the future because it's not something that applies to you. If it's something that you want, then you will take the time to do research.
As I did too. And honestly, it just sucks because there's so much misinformation from this one little clip alone. Like IVF is a procedure that you inject yourself with hormones to have children yourself so you can birth your own children. So please, ladies, don't listen to that.
So Fresh&Fit styles itself as like a man's channel. So I really wouldn't think women would be going there for fertility advice anyway. But in general, women, please do not listen to Fresh&Fit. And for that matter, men, please do not listen to Fresh&Fit. They will give you a completely warped view of women.
Oh, that shit is
you
scary.
guys-
That's so much
here's the thing.
scarier than it sounds like.
You
That's
guys got to
risking your
remember.
life.
You guys got to remember. I'm gonna. You guys could say fuck off. I don't agree with you, whatever. But here's the thing. You guys are in your prime right now.
Yeah.
21, 25. You guys are still attractive. You still get attention from men. You're able to hook up with celebs, whatever it is. I'm telling you right here, right now. Well, for her. I'm telling you right here, right now. I'm gonna give you the talk that your big brother or your dad or somebody should have told.
I'm a little curious as to where they find these women because I have a feeling that their lived experience is not the same for like the average woman.
Told you. As you get older, your options of men are going to dwindle. I'm gonna say that again. As you get older, the same men that you're able to get now to spend money on you, take you out on dates, etc., are going to are going to start to dwindle because men are attracted to youth and beauty.
They're always saying this and making it sound as though, in your 20 to 25 prime age, you should latch on to a man. But what happens when you eventually age? I mean, they act as though if you do that, you'll be set. But if men are attracted to youth and beauty, wouldn't they just throw you over for a younger model when you get older?
There's new girls turning 18 every single day. So these high status men are going to go after them and not you anymore. And as your options dwindle, the world isn't going to be as nice and sunshines and rainbows. And you're going to start to realize, okay, I'm tired of having casual sex with high value men. I need some.
And again, where do they find these women and what is a high value man? Because they make him sound really shallow.
I want to fucking lock my ass down. And you're going to want that security and stability to some degree. A lot of the times, children is one of the biggest personification of security and stability.
Oh, no.
He's 100% right about this, like 100% correct. These women think that they're not going to get to that point, and they're young enough to be naive and think that way, but it's going to happen, and it's going to be a rude awakening if they're not mentally or physically prepared for it. But yeah.
So the bright side of getting older, apparently, is that men will no longer want me for my youth and beauty. They'll have to talk to me instead or something crazy like that.
Now you might say, no, but I'm telling you.
Can I tell you something?
You could be the exception to the rule, but most women get baby rabies right around 27, 28, 29, 30. As your ability to bring children to term, that's facts.
That's true. I was one of them.
And again, your experience does not make something a universal truth. And out of curiosity, women watching, did you ever say that you didn't want kids only to experience baby rabies as you approached your late 20s, early 30s?
But mine came around 30, 31. So yeah, it happens. It comes. Your time finally clicks in and the timer starts going off. And at that point, it's all you think about. It's all I think about.
Is there a class that teaches the confidence to claim that someone else will think the way you do once they reach a certain age?
It's all I want. It's my reality, and that's just the facts.
Yes, it is a fact that that is your reality, and that does not make it someone else's reality. But thank you for furthering the notion that women don't know their own minds and will suddenly become slaves to biology at the age of 30.
That's facts.
Baby
Yeah.
rabies.
And yo, and
It's
here's-
terrible.
yo, and funny thing, even if you don't want a child, you want a family. You want somebody to be there with you in bed, traveling. So you want somebody in your life. So it's gonna come eventually.
And the last thing I'm going to say, we did a full podcast on this. It's 3 hours long, but if you guys want to put timestamps in there, there's links in there. We did a full podcast on the lies of feminism, how it actually sets up many women, modern day women, to be miserable for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
1 in 4 women is on antidepressant medication. A lot of women nowadays in the 2000s have the lowest approval rating and happiness ratings of ever before. When women were less liberated, they were actually reporting higher. A big predicator of a woman's long-term happiness and fulfillment comes from family and children.
Okay, so the solution to a women's happiness is not to make them less liberated, for the record. And also, studies have been done to find out why women are less happy now. And as it turns out, even though things are becoming more equal at home and in the workplace, women still tend to do the lion's share of housework. And even when a relationship starts off as egalitarian, once a kid is involved, studies have shown that once they have a kid, people tend to shift into the roles that they saw their parents perform, which obviously makes people less happy because they're essentially doing 2 jobs. I, of course, don't expect anyone to take my word for it, so I will be linking these studies that I found this information from below.
Now, a career.
That's why they make cats and dogs. So
That's so true. It's really interesting to see this dynamic now that I'm in my 30s. When I was in my 20s, all I was focused on was my career and advancing my career and being the boss babe and all that other stuff.
So I did take a peek at Rebecca's Instagram, and she did found a company in 2018. There have been no posts on the Instagram account since 2020, so I guess she has indeed switched her focus. But for me personally, my 20s were all about just making sure I could survive because, well, when you live in a rural area, the jobs are not plenty.
Now that I'm married and want children, that is all I think about. That is my number one goal. That is just my reality, and that's a reality for a lot of women, even if they don't want to admit it.
So I'm curious, does that mean that women over 30 who still say they don't want kids, they're just in denial, they're lying to themselves? What about women over 50 who can no longer have kids even if they wanted to, and they say, I'm glad I didn't have kids? Are they also in denial?
Even the boss babes that I know, even those entrepreneurs, they will freeze their eggs. They will go through all of these procedures, spend a lot of money to freeze their eggs for that. Hopefully one day they will be able to have those children.
This is really interesting because, even if, say you're 22 and you want a career, and so you plan to have kids in your late 30s and you want to be smart about it. So you look up what you can do to make sure you can have kids in your late 30s, and you go through the procedures to freeze your eggs and whatever else is necessary. What is wrong with that? If you're not ready for kids, you're not ready for kids. So there's nothing wrong with waiting. I don't understand why she's against this.
But the harsh reality is that so many women after the age of 35, approaching your 40s and 50s, 60s, 70s, if you don't have a family, if you don't have children at that point, The career at some point will dwindle away. It will just become whatever to you. There's only so many milestones that you can hit in business for you to feel successful or for you to feel anything, and then you're going to want the next thing. And unfortunately, by the time you hit the age of your mid 30s and 40s, time's up.
So she talks about all the misinformation out there about women's fertility, but she's also peddling misinformation. I mean, you don't suddenly become infertile at 35. If kids are something that you really want and it's like your number one goal in this life, I would not advise you to wait that long, but as a general rule, I wouldn't advise you to listen to either of us. I think Mama Dr. Jones probably has more helpful information on this subject, and of course, your own doctor. But I also don't think people that really want to have kids are waiting until 35 to have them anyway. There is no hard guarantee that you'll have kids even if you're 23. My grandmother had her kids at 23, 29, and 33, and apparently it was not planned that way. My aunt had her kids at 37 and 44, and I'm not a doctor, so take this with a grain of salt, but I think that if you're fertile at 23, you'll still be fertile at 37. It might take a little longer, but it's not like a hard and fast cutoff.
And especially if it's your first child. So it's so important to not think this way, to start, understanding that these are lies that feminist theory is teaching you.
What is feminist theory and where can I find its teachings?
This is stuff that is being bombarded at you daily, monthly, weekly, all this stuff. It started happening at a very young age for my generation, millennials, and now it's just progressing into every generation.
So, fellow millennial here, and what is this bombardment? Maybe it's because I'm from a rural area, but even now, living in a city, I've not seen messages about, don't have kids, they'll ruin your life or anything like that. But, if you have seen such messages, please tell me where and what they were, because I'm very curious.
Moving forward, and what's sad about it is that so many women will end up not married, not having children,
But why is that sad? I mean, there are so many things that I can think of in this world that are just like so sad, and women not being married and not having kids is not on that list.
Alone, and that is not what you want. You want to have a marriage, you want to have a husband, you want to have kids.
So again, where does your authority come from to tell women that you don't even know what they want? Not all women want to get married. Not all women want to have kids. This is not a tragedy, nor is it all that radical. There have been women throughout history who didn't want to get married. It's not some sort of strange modern feminist concept.
That will give you so much more in life than just that career. If women don't come to this realization, time's going to be up, and I don't want that for any of you.
It's kind of funny she says this because her comment section is filled with men. There is the odd woman here and there, but it's mainly men, and you know what? I think we might actually take a look at some of those comments.
That is why I'm speaking about this topic today, because it's so important that we as women understand these are lies that are being told to us.
Okay, so citation needed. Who is telling us these lies and what exactly are these lies?
That are being programmed into us to say you should not have kids, you should not desire to have kids, you should not desire to have a husband.
So considering most media still, includes marriage as like the happy end goal, and people are still getting married more often than not, who is doing this programming? Because they're doing it really badly.
A family or anything like that, and that is a lie. That is a lie to make us unhappy, to make us miserable people walking around, and unfortunately some of these women are going to die alone, and that is not what you want for your life.
So please don't get married and have kids because you're afraid you'll die alone if you don't. There is no guarantee that your kids will be there for you in your older years, and there is no guarantee that your husband will be either. Women tend to outlive men, so there's that. And then there's also this weird notion that if you get married between the ages of 20 and 25, you'll be set for life. But then these men also go on to say that high-value men are attracted to youth and beauty. So why on earth would you believe that when you're, say, 50, your husband won't be looking to trade you in for a younger woman?
Guys, real talk. If you want to invest in cat food and dog food.
Yeah, I have a dog.
Yeah, and another thing
Ooh, look at that face and the head shake. She does not approve of that woman having a dog.
I will say too is that the least happy demographic of women, I could give you guys the links and studies after this, is a woman that's earning between 50 to 100K a year that's in her 40s without children.
I like how she's nodding her head as though she's one of those women they're talking about. But anyway, if someone could link me that study, I would greatly appreciate it. Although on that note, I read a very interesting book called Passages about how like every part of our life has a different passage where we realize certain things and change and grow. And I just kind of wonder if maybe those women that reported being less happy was going through one of those passages. But I also want to note that we are incredibly privileged to get to like measure happiness in a study.
Can I share something with you guys real quick?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's something I found out about myself recently.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I went to the doctors and he told me that I had like a really high level of prolactin. I didn't know what that was, but it's apparently like you have stress if you're really stressed, or in women that are like producing breast milk or are pregnant, they have prolactin. And I didn't know. I straight up, I'm not pregnant, guys. I know that for a fact.
You're just extra fertile, probably.
But no, that shit actually affected me. Like, for some reason, the past year, I've just really been focused on getting married and I want to have kids, and that's never been me. And it's just been that way, and it's just my hormones. So I know I'm not the only one going through this, but like, I just wanted to put it out there.
Thank you for being honest about that. Seriously, thank you for being.
So for the record, I do not care if she wants to, get married and have kids right now or in the future or anything. The problem is when someone tries to make this a blanket statement and say that all women feel this way, they're just denying it for whatever reason, or they claim that all women will feel this way in the future, because women are not a monolith. Shocking, I know, but all women are different. We all have different wants, dreams, desires, fears, and so on. So again, Rebecca, you can't speak for all women, and I greatly appreciate the woman here in Fresh and Fit's room not speaking for herself and not trying to speak for all women.
Honest about that. And hey, that's not to say like, oh,
There's so many fertility tests out there that you can take. Modern Fertility is one of them. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not sponsored by saying that. But you can check your levels now in your 20s to see if you can produce as many eggs as you can, if you have enough estrogen and progesterone that your body is creating, if you're deficient in iron, magnesium, all these different things that you need for childbearing.
Well, I'm more old school than Rebecca, apparently, because I would prefer going to a doctor and having proper tests done instead of like a mail-in test or something that you can buy at like Walmart.
And it's interesting, once you find out these things, and once you find out, oh, you have lower levels of this or that, it changes things for you, because now your timer is really going and really kicking into gear. And just like this woman, now she really wants to have a family. Now she really wants to have kids, because she knows that her body is either fertile or not fertile enough. And if you are wasting your 20s just hooking up with everyone that you come into contact with and not being intentional about dating.
So I just want to interject and say that it is possible to be in your 20s and to not want kids, and to not be a boss babe, and to not be hooking up with everyone you come into contact with. But thank you for the stereotypes, Rebecca. Just in case we thought they were going away, we have been reminded.
It can be a problem when you actually go into your 30s and try to settle down with someone, and now you find out that your levels are so lower that you can't even have children, or that there's going to be complications and that you have to do IVF or other treatments like that.
So Rebecca got married, I think within the past few years, and this makes me wonder if she regrets having waited until she met her husband to get married and start thinking about a family. I mean, would she rather have settled down at a younger age, even if it was with someone else?
Like, this is the reality for a lot of women in their 30s. You could have mitigated these things early on in your life, in your 20s, if you got preventative testing, if you got things that would help you understand what's happening with your body, and understand, okay, well, this might not be something that I want now, but this might be something that I could potentially want in the future.
She is coming at this from such a privileged perspective. I could not have had those tests done in my 20s because I didn't have health insurance. So I had no way of finding out anything about my body unless I wanted to pay crazy high prices to do so, which I didn't have the money for.
Let me take a test. Let me understand what my levels are. Let me see if I can produce as many eggs as I can. And at that point, from that point, you can actually say, hey, okay, I have a little bit more time, or no, I really want to have children now. I really want to take this on in my life. I want to be the big sister to any young woman out there that is fighting this urge, fighting, this desire in your heart to.
So if, say, an 18-year-old has a desire in her heart to become a mother, would Rebecca be on board for that, or would she encourage her to wait?
Have children, to have a family, to have a husband. it's okay. You can have these things and still have the career. You can still do all of these things and not be less than what society says that you are.
This is very feminist of you, Rebecca. I'm very proud.
You need to stop lying to yourself. You need to stop lying to your family and friends, and you need to come to terms with the fact that you are a woman. These are things that you desire.
All right, well, that was short-lived. So if Rebecca meets someone and they're talking and the woman somehow ends up saying she doesn't want kids, does Rebecca assume she's lying because everyone with ovaries must want children?
And it's okay to desire them. All right, guys, so that is my video today.
All right, and so that was this reaction video of a reaction video. I wanted to talk about this because maybe Rebecca truly thinks she's helping women, but most of her comments are from men, and it does seem to be that most red pill channels are geared toward men. Even if they're meant to be for women, it's mostly men that respond, and there's rarely, if ever, any pushback in the comments about, you know, women aren't a monolith, you can't speak for all women, so on and so forth. And I did a little preliminary glance at her YouTube channel and her Instagram, and I don't know her, I'm not an expert, this is just my opinion, but it looks like she was an average, ordinary American, and then she did, within like the past year or two, a sharp turnaround into the red pill lifestyle. And I don't know if it was her husband's idea or if it was hers, but it is worrying, especially because she has a husband's name greater than symbol than her name. And I'm going to hope that, I don't know, it was a mistake and she doesn't actually think her husband is better than her. But I am very curious about whose idea this was, and I'm also curious about if this was for, you know, the YouTube, essentially, because I'm sad to say that a red pill channel does tend to get a lot of views and subscribers, and I think that says something really sad about our society right now. But anyway, that is it for this video. For the end screen, I'm just going to leave a few comments that I really enjoyed from her video. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day and a great weekend, and I will see you in the next video.